13 minutes past 8. The Taoiseach Minister for Justice Francis Fitzgerald is considering allegations made by two Gardai about what they say is an organised campaign against them run by senior Gardai. We asked the Minister to appear on the programme. She wasn't available. Independent TD Claire Daly has met the two Gardai who made these latest allegations a short time ago. I asked her, bearing in mind the obvious limitations of speaking outside Dáil privilege, what the two Gardai had said to her about the way they were treated.
I suppose it fits in very much with the points we've been making about a huge gulf between the public statements of the Commissioner offering support to whistleblowers and what's going on behind the scenes. Now, we would be aware for a long time now that some people have come forward and made protected disclosures have been the victims of bullying and harassment and that type of thing. But I suppose what makes this more shocking is we've seen a lot of what we have been saying and a lot of what they've been experienced absolutely vindicated in the most shocking terms by one senior officer who has admitted that he played a part in that. And in essence what's been said is that there was a deliberate and organised campaign to, in essence, annihilate a whistleblower. The word came out from the top that this person had to be crushed, he had to be discredited, inaccurate personal information was given out about him in the most horrific way, text messages sent to Gardai, people in the media told, oh, you don't want to be talking to him now, you know all about him, hint, hint, with some more graphic detail with it. Politicians, who I think need to come clean on this, got the messages about this as well. And basically what it was an attempt to isolate and crush this man because he had the audacity to speak out against the hierarchy. And I suppose the most serious part of all is that the claim is that this was done utterly with the knowledge of the former and present Commissioner.
Now, we have to point out the obvious, which is both what Noreen O'Sullivan has said in the past, and again I see in the Examiner this morning that she's not going to comment on any particular protected disclosure report, but she's again said she welcomes any protective disclosure and that she has on numerous occasions expressed her support for any employees who have issues and concerns. As Commissioner, she says, I have actively asked employees to bring forward issues and concerns. Now, you, from what you hear, are you at the point of not accepting what she's saying?
Oh, I was at that point long ago. I know for a fact that people who have come forward on the watch of Commissioner O'Sullivan and made protected disclosures have had no contact from her at all in relation to their claims, that people in their stations who bullied and intimidated them have been included on the promotions list while they are out sick from work, isolated, harassed on very low pay. The reality for those people is the complete and utter polar opposite of what the Commissioner has said. And in fairness, the O'Higgins report itself gave evidence of that gulf between the statements and the reality, because the O'Higgins Commission showed that while making public statements, the instructions to the Commissioner's legal team was very much to attack the character of Maurice McCabe. So I don't accept it at all. That's not the reality.
Well, there are two issues here that arise. One is the response of the government, and one is the response of the Commissioner. Let's talk about the Commissioner first of all. What are you saying about her position now, given what you just said?
Oh, once the O'Higgins report was published, myself and Deputy Mick Wallace publicly called for the Commissioner to go. I think that is even more the case now, because we have, let's not forget, that the civilian head of Garda Síochána made a Section 41 formal complaint to the Minister about the treatment of whistleblowers recently. That's been on the Minister's desk. We know that one of the two main whistleblowers who came forward in the under the term of Noreen O'Sullivan's reign at the top of Garda Síochána has written 4 times to the Minister directly, outlining the problems he has faced. So at the very least, I mean, what more information does the government need before it's going to take action? I think the Commissioner should go, and if the government don't deal with this, the Minister is going to find herself joining her pretty quickly.
I have to put to you the obvious point, though, that you're accepting what these latest allegations, and I know you've met the whistleblowers, and as are also reported this report in the Irish Examiner, that a senior officer has admitted that he took part in this organised smear campaign with approval. But you seem to be accepting one side of the story without hearing the other, and that's the Commissioner's side.
I've been hearing...
And she says she's behind commissioners and behind whistleblowers and will support them.
And we've been hearing that for 2.5 years. And if this was just an isolated report that landed out of the blue, there might be some credibility in that approach. From what we have now is, in essence, an avalanche. We have the treatment of the present whistleblowers. We have the revelations in O'Higgins. We have the civilian heads report to the minister. It goes on and on and on. And we've seen and met and know some of the whistleblowers quite well. Their lives have been destroyed. Their families have been brought into the loop and targeted in the most vile and shocking ways. I have, the gas thing is, yesterday when I was talking to some of them and they had read Mick Clifford's report, they were saying that, often in the past few years they thought, look, are we being a bit paranoid here about some of the things? Maybe we're overstating it, maybe we're exaggerating. And they said, you know what, we didn't even know the half of it. And while that was comforting, they found it utterly shocking as well. And everybody should be very worried about this.
Just to be clear about this, because we know what your view is in relation to the Commissioner, did the whistleblowers say to you that they believed, and there's an important distinction, or that they had evidence that this came from the top? Did they say either of those things?
One of them would say that yes, he had the direct experience of knowing that came from the top.
Knowing or believing?
No, not believing, knowing. The others firmly believe it because they have been in regular contact with the Commissioner and their situation.
Okay. When you say knowing, do they have evidence to back up that knowledge?
You'd have to ask them that, but I believe that they do.
You believe that they do? You don't know?
Well, look, I don't know, no.
Right. Okay.
In relation to that whistleblower, I don't know. And in relation to the others, they wouldn't be of a rank sufficient to have direct contact with the Commissioner herself. But I think isn't at the heart of the claims around the O'Higgins investigation that the Commissioner instructed her legal team to discredit Maurice McCabe. We have that inquiry and indeed the complaints of John Barrett, the civilian head of Gardai is directed in that.
Can I come on to the response of the government? Because there's certainly on Micheál Martin's part, there's a belief that some kind of wider investigation than GSOC could run is needed, and the Taoiseach seem to be accepting that may well be necessary. What's your view as to what the government should do now, and specifically Francis Fitzgerald?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that it's my knowledge that the latest information was brought to the attention of the two Justice spokespersons for Fianna Fáil, who had no interest in dealing with this situation prior to now. Prior to the protective disclosure going in, which I think is really regrettable and actually undermines their position. But in any case, it is the case that I really don't see why we need another inquiry at this stage. How much information does the government need? They have direct complaints, not just from whistleblowers, directly the Minister herself, from the civilian head of Garda Síochána, in relation to the O'Higgins report, all dealing with the treatment of whistleblowers and all pointing to the fact that what the Garda authorities say in public is completely different to the reality on the ground. So they need to act on this.
Is it as simple as this that you're saying the government should sack the Commissioner?
Yeah, I don't think it's simple at all, but I think that the Commissioner's position is utterly untenable. There's a huge now breach of trust in this regard. How could any Garda have confidence in that operation, and certainly seeing what these whistleblowers have been through? I wouldn't if I was one.
Final question. How could any government decide on such a serious course of action as dismissing a Commissioner before assessing the information they've got and inquiring into it further in some shape or form before acting?
You see, I suppose the problem for them is that they've had a lot of this information now for a whole period in time, really since the start. I mean, this is unfinished business from the last Commissioner, and it flows from the fact that the present Commissioner was the deputy to the past Commissioner. They worked very, very closely together, and the idea that a new broom came in when the old Commissioner went was never the case. And that job, if you like, of transforming the top of Garda Síochána was never done properly. And the Minister and the government have been consistently getting information to back up what I'm saying here now, and not just from me, but from people directly involved, and they have consistently done nothing. And now they're faced with a very grave situation where irrefutable evidence in this regard is coming onto their plate. And how in God's name could they continue to ignore this in the face of the very clear damage that's been done to people who put their necks on the line for the good of a police service that they loved?
That's independent TD Claire Daly speaking to me earlier, and the question of what the response of the government should be and how these allegations made by the two whistleblowers in that protected disclosure to the Minister for Justice is still being considered by Francis Fitzgerald. It's